until after the Special General Purposes Committee meeting. With that, I'm going to call the Special General Purposes Committee meeting of Monday, June 28th, 2021 to order.
Just a point of Mayor.
We have,
Mayor Brody.
no,
Mayor Brody.
no, you'll listen to what I
Point
say.
of order.
No, you'll listen to what I say. We have one item on the agenda. It's the official community plan, land use designations for lots at King George Park. Now, Councillor Day, you have your hand up.
Yes, point of order. It hasn't been 5 business days and for notification of this special meeting and this agenda item. So I think it should be postponed until we can meet that criteria set out by council.
Well, I'll ask Madam Clerk to speak to that. The item actually started off as a closed item and inappropriately so on the Parks agenda for tomorrow. And in order to come to a bottom line and to answer the question that has been long outstanding, this is the way we went ahead with it. So, Madam Clerk, can you talk about the timing?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Day, the Council Procedure Bylaw does permit agenda items and supplemental agendas to be sent out, regardless of the time and notice requirements that are set out for regular committee distribution dates. So the Procedure Bylaw does provide staff and council the flexibility to add agenda items even as late as Friday for a Monday meeting.
And I take it that that's what you have done.
That is correct.
All right. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. I'm not sure if Councillor Day was done, but maybe she was.
Councillor Wolf.
My question is, yes? Oh, am I slow? Okay, bad Wi-Fi collection. I'll move back to my own spot, maybe. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks. The question was, why could this not just be next Monday, the July 5th, the general purposes meeting there?
It could be a number of different times. The meeting has been duly called, and that's the agenda item. Councillor McNulty.
My question is, why did it supersede the opportunity of discussion of Parks and Rec? What is the urgency of this particular item?
The urgency is that it's been around for many years. Assurances that it would be taken care of have been given to various people who have been directly impacted by it. And the fact was that it was on a closed agenda for tomorrow, but that was actually inappropriate. So in order to provide answers, put it on an open agenda and hear it. Councillor Steves.
I don't quite understand what's going on. It was supposed to be a closed Parks agenda. Why wasn't it put on the regular Parks agenda instead of coming here? This whole issue arose at Parks, and it's to be discussed at Parks. So I object to the manner this is being handled.
Well, you were advised on Friday that this was the plan. I'm surprised to hear that you have an objection.
I'm telling you now, I've got an objection to what I was advised on Friday.
Okay, I'm just surprised we didn't hear on Friday. But in any case, the way it was going to go was if it got handled at Parks tomorrow, then it was going to have to be. It would have to go then to a council meeting at some future point. Why not just deal with it with everybody here and we can come to some answers? Councillor Day.
Yeah, you just said something I'd like a explanation for. You said assurances have been given to certain people. What does that mean, Mayor Brody?
That means it's been, various people have been complaining about the impact of the situation for a long, long time. Years.
So assurances.
Assurances as to when it would be dealt with.
Once again, I object to this agenda item and this meeting.
All right. I hear you. All right. So with that, we'll head right into it. If someone wants to refer it somewhere else, to adjourn it, to do whatever, go right ahead. But I'll hear from staff on the substance. I'll hear from staff on the substance.
Through the chair to committee, I'd like to provide a high-level overview on the report in front of you today. As noted by Mayor Brody, the 5 properties at the north corner of number 5 and Cambie have been subject to various land use inquiries and council-related discussions over the years. More recently, the property at 4080 number 5 road has an active development permit application to construct a new commercial building, and the property owner has expressed concerns about further improving the property given the park's OCP land use designation. Subject to that, at the January 26, 2021 PRCS committee meeting, there was a query from committee for staff to expedite a report back to council to discuss this land use designation. Upon completion of a parks needs assessment, which parks follows the Parks and Open Space Strategy, which is approved by council, which looks at green space standards, it was determined that the East Cambie area currently is well served by public accessibility green space and is currently exceeds the city park quantity and area standards, and will expect to continue to do this for quite some time. In addition, the properties in question do have limited ecological value and also have very close proximity to high volume arterial roads. Based on these conditions, staff proceed and direct to move forward with option 1, removing the park's OCP land use designation for these 5 lots. I'll now pass things over to John Hopkins to provide a little bit of additional overview in relation to the properties themselves.
Thank you. To the chair, if we have a bylaw that has been passed along on, I guess, on table, bylaw 10284. This bylaw would remove the park land use designation from the 5 lots at south east corner of number 5 road and Cambie road. It would also redesignate the property at the corner of number 5 and Cambie. That's 4020 number 5 road. It would redesignate that property to commercial. It would then also redesignate the remaining 4 properties to a townhouse residential designation. And it would also introduce new policies for those 5 properties at the corner in the East Cambie area plan. And those policies would look at encouraging lot consolidation. It would allow a density bonus for the residential properties, provided that there is affordable housing provided. It would ensure proper and safe access and egress for vehicular traffic to and from these properties. It would require a statutory right-of-way and a Section 219 covenant for a multi-use pathway that would provide public access from the corner of 5 and Cambie to King George Park. And lastly, for the property at 4080 number 5 road, it would allow a personal service use in addition to existing retail convenience use as an interim use subject to an approved rezoning bylaw or a temporary use permit. Be happy to answer any questions.
I've got a question of I guess it's of Todd Gross. Does the Parks Department of the city see any park use for these 5 lots?
Through to the chair, currently the King George Park is very well served with the amenities that it has. It is one of the largest parks within the community, and at this time we do not see the need for additional park space at this particular location.
All right, we've got some questions, and then we've got a delegation on the matter. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. So to Mr. Hopkins, Currently, like you said, it was zoned retail, and you can have a residence above the retail. So that's what it's zoned for, correct, today, right?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, yes. Currently, the zoning is local commercial. It only allows retail convenience. If retail convenience store is on the site, you can have one, essentially a residential unit above the retail convenience.
Right. Now, when we're rezoning properties, and we've seen this thousands of times, where someone will come forward and want to build townhouses or apartments and make the best and possible use of that property, we use the zoning to get amenities. If we give away this park designation now, wouldn't that cost us in the end? That's kind of our ace in the hole for redevelopments down the road when someone does come along and potentially assembles all 6 of those lots into one new development. Then at that point, we can use the rezoning to allow for, more amenity space, potentially more access to the park, that sort of thing. Doesn't it give us more leverage?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, what's in front of you today is sort of a policy framework for those 5 properties. All those properties would still have to go through a rezoning process where we could secure those amenities, but the policies in front of you would at least give you the framework for which policies or which amenities we would be looking for.
Okay. Is there any reason they couldn't be done at the same time, the rezoning and the eliminating the park use destination?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, they could be done at the same time.
All right. Thank you. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you, through the chair. If we were to add these lots to our park inventory by purchasing them, what would be the cost of these lots, approximately?
Staff, is that something that you would respond to in open session?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, we have assessed values, which I did get from real estate, which is common knowledge, is my understanding. Total assessed value is approximately $7 million.
And then, so if they were for sale, potentially it could be 7, it could be more, it could be less, it could be whatever. But just to add that little piece to the park, if that's what we really wanted to do. But that's not actually in our parks plan currently. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, that is correct.
Okay, so right now it's just sitting in this weird limbo space. So, and then do we know the value of the intersection upgrades that they'd be responsible for? Because right now, we have a plan to fix that intersection at 5 and Canby for the multi-use path to make it better for, we passed it last year, I think it was, and I think the upgrades are happening sort of in the next year. But I think these guys then become responsible for that portion of it. Is that correct, with multi-use path and everything else?
I can take a crack at that one. Through your worship to Councillor Liu, I believe that project is fully funded by the city at this point in time. There could be some other frontage improvements that we seek if someone comes forward to do a development, but the current project is fully funded.
Okay, so none of that ends up on the developer if these guys come in soon for the project,
No.
right?
Through your worship to Councillor Liu, no, I don't believe it does.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised to hear one of our senior parks people say we have no need for additional park space. And I thought we have a policy that we would take any lot and anything we can to get additional park space for the future. Was the previous park plan for King George Park ever studied or brought into fruition? Or are current senior managers even aware that there has been a long-standing parks plan to acquire every lot in that quarter section? Whatever happened to that? Is that something we sent to the work yard and put up on the shelf? Councillor Steves would definitely remember that.
Yeah, let's have an answer.
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, as I highlighted in the introduction, we do follow the Parks and Open Space strategy for our quantities and needs within the community. That provides a framework for us to which we follow and does set priorities. If these parcels were to be maintained as park designation and we wanted to purchase them in the future, they would just sit there for a very long time, as we have much higher priorities within the overall city criteria in other areas that don't have the current standards, don't have the current amenities. That's the challenge. We only have so much money, yet we have higher priorities elsewhere.
Well, that's staff's priorities. I've had these since 1948. It's interesting. Parks and open space. I hope Councillor Steeves will put that on the agenda tomorrow to discuss as the basis of our acquisition of parklands. To the other staff members, this seems like this is already a done deal. I just can't believe when I got this memo from Mr. Hopkins on June 28th, the bonusing sent out, we're going to even put personal service uses out there. What other forms of housing were contemplated there? I see you've got townhouses, which is high value, $1 million a piece. Why didn't we put apartments for low income?
Mr. Mayor, perhaps I can respond to that. This is not a done deal from the planning department's perspective. We were asked to provide replacement designations in the event that the park designation is removed. That is what we have done. The policies and the designations that Mr. Hopkins provided to you are exactly the same as the policies and designations that were provided in 2016 when this matter was last considered. So it is not, from my perspective, a done deal. We're simply doing what was requested, and the policies do provide for density bonusing for affordable housing. So that is already in the package that has been brought forward, but it is no different to what you received in 2016.
Well, it's laid out very, very well, very crafted. I am not
sure
the members of the public will buy that. Could I ask a question of the traffic on the right in and right out vehicular access that's suggested? I guess we're going to have concrete barriers on number 5 road and on Cambie Road so people can't bull fudge through and do left-hand turns and that. I assume that's contemplated, although it doesn't say that.
Through your worship,
it's a very dangerous intersection, one of the worst in the lower mainland. So I assume that we're going to have that. Am I wrong on that?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, I don't have that detailed information with me, but I can get that to you.
Well, I think that would be very suggestive to have concrete abutments there, because you're never going to get it right in and right out of people on it. We're talking about affordable housing units. What are we talking about? One unit there if we're going to have suggested townhouses?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, so the proposal right now would be 15% of the floor area could be considered for affordable housing. How that translates into units would depend on the overall floor area and what was being proposed. So I would imagine in this case we'd be talking probably 2 or 3 units would be my guess, but it'd be in that neighborhood.
Okay, that'd be interesting to see if that comes to fruition if this goes through. Okay, that's enough questions of staff on this. I'll make comments later.
Councillor Wolf.
Yes, thank you. I hope my signal's a bit better now. I've moved to my usual location. I just have a couple questions or comments about this, and maybe just a few short questions. So I'm very familiar with this corner. I grew up, my grandparents lived down the road. One of the existing buildings was my old candy store I'd go to. And as a high school student at Cambie Secondary, this would be a place we'd go during lunch hours. So very familiar with it. And interesting to hear some of the information that's come out today. I too expected this in parks, and if this does come back another time, I would hope it goes through the parks and the planning as opposed to an expedited GP like we're going through now. A couple of things about park space. The Richmond Nature Park has been deemed within the park area of this location, but again, it's Richmond's only true natural park. It doesn't function the same way like King George Park or any other park does. So it really is a natural park that can't take large crowds, two people side by side. I walked with my daughter. It took us an hour to do the whole East Nature Park Loop Trail, which is a very small parking lot, cannot accommodate a lot of people. No dogs allowed there. So there's a lot of limitations. And to consider that as a factor for not needing park space in the number 5 road in Cambie area is something that I know residents living in the area would not agree with. And seeing how the jet fuel pipe...
Councillor, could you just ask questions of staff at this point?
All right.
And then when we get a motion on the floor, I'm sure you're going to have your point of view.
All right, thanks. My question then, first to staff would be, if this were retained as park, what are types of community amenities or facilities that could go there other than people just thinking open park? What other city facilities could go on a site this size? Like, for example, could the existing library that's across the street be moved to a new building in that spot?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I'll jump in first. Jason, feel free to come in after me. Obviously, dependent on council direction, there are a variety of options that could be entertained for this location and further with public consultation. The main reason we're here today is really the King George Park currently has a full array of amenities for a park. As I noted earlier, it's one of the largest parks. And so we really don't need more amenities or more park space in this specific location. If we were going to consider more park space for the King George Cambie area, we would look to locate that somewhere else to serve another part of that community.
Thanks. My next follow-up question then on that, I'm not sure if you went by the King George Park this past weekend, but the parking lot just down the road from these properties was completely full and people were unable to even turn around to get out of it. So the water park and the park right at that corner is a major draw, and we're just getting in to summertime. So if we were to put a commercial building and draw more people to that corner, they're going to use that parking space, those parking spaces as well, and we're going to need more parking space. So I don't know if you have a comment on that. And then my last question is, do we have any idea what the school is planning to do? The school district, which is right across the street, are they planning to keep that as an open space corner that could use community facilities? Or is that going to be a dense commercial structure right up to the corner? Thanks.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we have not had any recent conversations with the school district as far as any changes or needs for change in their area. Regarding the parking, we're always aware of parking challenges, especially this time of year in a heat wave where we have a spray park there in a very high demand. And we always look at means to maybe redirect people because people always want to park in the closest area to the park or to that amenity when there is other parking lots around this particular site.
All right, we'll go to Councillor Rao for questions.
I know that there's a bit of history about the application from 4080 number 5 road. And this is not being detailed in the report. So can staff help us to understand the history of this application? I think this application is active, but it has been tracking for 10 years, something like that. So what's the history of this application?
Through the chair to Councillor Rao, a development permit application for the property was submitted to the city in 2018. That application has not progressed since that time to fruition to be able to be brought forward to the development permit panel for consideration. The primary reason for that is, as alluded to by Mr. Gross in his presentation, the property owner's hesitation to invest further in the property given the current park designation.
Okay. Now, my second question is, I think in sometime in 2016, there was at one time council approved the change of the destination of this area, and also it was being brought forward to a public hearing. So again, can staff give us some details about that? And what has
Through your
changed
worship,
since then?
Sure. Through your worship, Councillor Lau, in 2016, staff between Parks and Policy Planning brought forward a series of bylaw amendments that looked at designating properties that were park, and that should be an urban land use designation, or if it was an urban land use designation, designates a park because there was already an existing park. So it was a lot of housekeeping in those bylaws. When those bylaw amendments were brought forward to council at a public hearing in June of 2016, there was a decision at that time to take those 5 properties out of the bylaws that were in front for consideration. And so they've essentially, it's been in a holding pattern since 2016.
Okay. My final question is now, actually, we are only talking about, or this discussion is being sparked off by the application on 4080, number 5 road. And nobody's talking about a bigger project, a townhouse or whatever, a bigger project in that area. So we are actually, this application sparked off this discussion. So I want to know if we do not change the destination in the OCP, what can the current owner do with the house? I understand that they are trying to change the commercial use destination, right, from a convenience store to other things. So what can they do, or what they cannot do if the destination doesn't change?
Through the chair to Councillor Al, the property can only be used in accordance with the existing local commercial zoning. So while the park designation is on the property, council is unable to consider any rezoning applications that would further allow additional uses or any other form of development. So effectively, it's a retail convenience store with a security or dwelling unit above.
Now, further to that question, say, for example, if they haven't used up the areas, buildable areas right now, in this case, can they build a bigger house if to use up the FAR?
Through the chair to Councillor Al, no. The existing zoning does not allow a single-family house.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, a lot of my questions have been asked, so I was interested in the school district. We don't know anything about that. Councillor Liu asked about the capital project. So the capital project was already approved and is in the works, and any more upgrades to that intersection would come through redevelopment. Is that correct?
Through your worship, Councillor McPhail, yeah, any further frontage improvements would come through redevelopment.
Because I know that is the concern in the neighborhood. We've discussed it at committee and council as well. It's a heavily used intersection, and I think there's a lot of accidents there as well. And I know the people at the East Richmond Community Association are also concerned about traffic safety. But one of the things that we could get with rezoning would be a better access to the park. That's in one of the pages there. A gateway to the park.
Through your worship, Councillor McPhail, yes, one of the policies is looking at a multi-use pathway from the corner to the park.
I know that when we've discussed this before in the context of services in the community, this is a very underserved community. They are really lacking space for services like doctors and dentists. So I know that would be really welcome to that area. And I think that's all for now. Thanks.
Councillor Steves.
Yeah, thank you. We've had a long-standing policy in Richmond, going back 30 or 40 years on these lots, and all the other lots along the perimeter of our parks. And that policy was that that we would buy the properties when they came available, and we would pay market value for it. If we didn't buy them, they could sell it, but they sell it with the designation of a park on it, and the next time round we might buy it. How many lots are left in the rest of Richmond that we haven't bought? We bought most of the ones on Cambie Road for this park. We bought from the McRobert School. We bought Alberta Road. Are there any left, or are these the last set of lots that haven't been acquired?
through the mayor to Councillor Steves, perhaps I'll just step in. And Councillor Steves, you're talking about the park openness criteria in our council-approved parkland acquisition strategy, which we've had for a number of years. And further to some comments by councillors previously, of course, council has approved that strategy and the number of criteria that are in there, including park openness. So I don't know the exact number, but what I will say, and to Mr. Gross's point, there are many high priority properties in the city that would meet council's parkland acquisition strategy criteria in a much stronger manner than these ones. And so it's a very strange position for park staff to be in, to be saying that we recommend that a park designation be removed. But in this case, the opportunity for the community and the opportunity to achieve some park improvements by changing the designation on these properties would lead overall to better access to the park than the current use of those sites, and would also lead to the opportunity for council to direct its funds to higher priority properties in the city.
Could you please provide us with all the other properties on the perimeters of parks in Richmond for the next, when this comes up again? Because I think it's important to recognize that what we did, we bought the ones on a priority list for the last 20 or 30 years. These were lower on the list, but we didn't take them off the list. And that's what we're doing today, is taking them off the list. And if we're going to take these ones off the list, are we going to take others off the list too? I think we need to know that.
Okay, Councillor Liu.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment from the school board liaison committee meeting on June the 9th. I believe it was Frank Geyer said that they will be opening up that park in front of Mitchell School. So they're going to utilize those stairs that go down into the park area where the old Mitchell School site was. And they're going to activate it as a park, maybe put some more trees or something else in there. So they're going to keep it as a park, and they're going to open it up and make it accessible to people to use as a park. That's all.
Okay, Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. Just on the size of the park and the number of hectares based on the population per 1,000, I understand if you include the nature park, how it exceeds the standard for the city. But in reality, with the highway there and everything, I think a comment has already been made towards this that I see why it counts looking at a map, but I can also see the rationale for not actually.
Sir Hobbs, we're asking questions now.
Sure. The question is.
Go ahead.
Well, the question is, if you actually did not count the nature park just for mathematical purposes and counting hectares, how would that work out for that area in terms of hectares per 1,000 people? Sorry for the long question.
Jason, you want us to handle this one? Do you know the?
Yes, to the worship to Councillor Hobbs. The nature parks total to approximately 200 acres. Currently, the overall, sorry, let me just check the data very quickly. Currently, the total acres in the East Cambie planning area has 279 acres. So if we discount the nature parks, we'd be left with approximately 79 acres of open space. And then just to add to that comment, currently King George Community Park is noted as 48.7 acres of park space. These additional 5 lots total to 1.34 acres.
Oh, is that it?
Okay. The question was, though, hectares per 1,000 people, when you take those off, what does it work out to? I did the math myself, thank you, but does it still work out to in excess of the standard per 1,000 residents?
Through the chat to Councillor Hobbs, no, if we take out nature park, then we would need more park spaces for the planning area.
Thank you.
And through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, that said, we would still look for higher priority locations to serve a broader context.
All right, we have a delegation on this matter. So we'll go to Amy Ho and Keith Ho, who are delegates. And for the delegates, you're given 5 minutes. Please introduce yourself, and there's a 5-minute limit on what you have to say. So tell us your point of view. Go ahead.
It's my turn now? Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Ho. Today, I'm with my son, Keith. I'm meeting with everyone online. I'm so sad. My husband has been unable to join me in this meeting. On December 29, 2020, he died of lung cancer. 10 years ago, I bought 4080 number 5 Road, Richmond. The reason why I bought this house, because it is a local commercial building. Upstairs can live, and downstairs can do business. But our dream has been broken. We went to the city hall to apply for a license to do business. They have been giving us a reason, not a reason. One push another. They want us to open like across the street, in the opposite from my house, like the kind of grocery store, selling milk, fruit, vegetable, and so on. They also told us to pay $1,000 for amendment. Then $1,000 is not success. It's a waste of money. We have tried very hard for 10 years, applying for the following business license through the personal service. For example, daycare, bubble tea, colon hydrotherapy, beauty business like a facial massage, something like that. Because I'm the instructor, I am also the examiner. So I always teaching skincare aesthetic program. But in the end of all about OCP, refused to give up the right not to do it. My husband, from undead to dead, has been more than 10 years now. OCP has been outdated about 21 years. If you don't release this right out, it is very unfair to us as tax collectors. How long do you want to play this game, my dear? That's what I want to know. That's very hard. Okay, I let you, my son Keith, and talk to you. Okay, Keith, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, from what I'm hearing, we're not big-time developers. We're just one regular-sized family. Basically, in this property, you can't do anything because of the park designation. I can't even build a newer house. This house is old. In the bottom, where you're supposed to do business, you can't do anything. The only thing they allow you to do is convenience store, but there's convenience stores right across the street. There's grocery stores right across the street. So people that are familiar with this area know, and there's big box convenience stores like IGA, Shoppers, and stuff like that, right across the street. So it's telling you can't do anything in this particular property. You can't even build a new house. You can't do anything. So it's very unfair. It's not the park designation that really matters. It's because you can't do anything with the park designation on the property. Like, we're not able to do anything. You can't do anything in this property. And that's what we're trying to change.
All right.
And anything else you want to add on?
I want to make it fair for us, because the reason why I bought this house, I already mentioned it. Nothing. You cannot do anything. but I pay for the local commercial building tax. I want to live here and do business, but now I cannot do anything. They always say, no, no, no. My God, if you buy the house, nothing, you cannot do anything. What do you think, my dear? Be honest.
We're not
Be fair.
big developers. So that's when people are talking about getting amenities and stuff like that. We're not big developers. When the time comes when someone wants to buy all these properties and put it all together, there's an opportunity there. And I was raised in Richmond, so of course anything that's pro Richmond, I'm for. So at that time, of course, by all means, if you collect amenities that way, do it. But right now, it's just you're punishing individual owners who have no aspirations of buying. We don't have money to buy out properties all around our neighbors and stuff like that. We can't buy out the block. We're only talking about this one property right now for us, and we just want to be able to do something with it, as opposed to, no, you can't do anything because, well, just because. Without any kind of strategic plan in place, Park Board's not buying it. We've asked, but you're not buying it, and you're just trying to hold up for nothing, really. So I'm just trying to be fair.
Okay, we've got a couple questions for you. We'll go to Councillor Steves.
And my question to you is this: did this property have a park designation when you bought it?
What was that, sorry?
Did this property have a park designation when you bought it?
Nobody told me that. When I buy this house, and I bought this house from my agent, he is an Indian guy. He didn't tell me nothing about this one. So I was so stupid, and then I bought this one. But eventually, I liked the place because sit beside the park. That's why. Nobody told me that.
Okay, that's not our problem, unfortunately. Did you pay extra money to your agent then because not knowing it was park? Or did you pay the going price that he was selling it for?
Selling this one? What do you mean? I don't understand your question. Can you repeat your question, please?
Well, basically, your agent knew that it was park, and he would have it priced as park. I guess my question is, you bought it as park. Why don't you simply sell it as park?
What do you mean I sell this park? I cannot do anything right now. I have to make a living, my dear. I cannot sit here for nothing anyway. 10 years now, my dear.
The previous owner could run the store and the apartment upstairs, and you can do the same thing. You're asking for a change. And instead of giving you a change, if council keeps it this way,
you can't even build it. My mom lives here. My mom we live here. We can't even build a new house if we wanted a new house here. You can't do anything.
That's
unnecessarily so.
My question is, why haven't you considered selling it and buying a place where you can build a house?
Why are you forcing us to sell? Why would you ask that of somebody?
Because you're trying to get their park designation changed.
Yes, this is the whole purpose of what we're doing here right now.
I'm sorry
have to stay static for the rest of your life.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, my dear. I don't want to offend you. Why are you so old-fashioned, my God? That's outdated. What, dear? God damn it. I'm sorry. Excuse my language. My God, I'm so mad. My husband passed away already. Okay, John Hopkins, please, Barry, everybody told me, go to the amendment, pay $1,000, but nothing happened. And I go for the daycare, and then they are meeting with me. Okay, sure, no, you can do daycare, but your building is too old. You cannot do that. You have to upgrade your building. That's what you said to me. You know why I'm so upset? I cry like every day since my husband died because I'm really depressed right now. How come you guys still up there for nothing?
All right.
Why you make me so mad? Why you make me so disappointed?
Okay, we're going to go to Councillor Day. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. Take a breath. When staff are working with the public, it's their job to help you understand the rules. If you can get a license with your current designation for a daycare, would you be happy with that?
Yes. daycare, or maybe I can open a bubble tea restaurant. I have to make for living. I cannot sit here for nothing.
So basically, we have the park designations, what it restricts because of the park designation. Basically, if you want to open up like say we want to do business, like we'll open up a restaurant downstairs. Like whatever we want to do with it, we're able to, but you can't do anything. Like you don't, and I don't even know why they would ask us to pay for changing when you know you can't. I don't even understand that. Like, this is out of pocket pay years ago already. Saying it will be. This is this whole process from day one from contacting to now. It's been 10 years. This whole process, just talking to people, and it's ongoing.
My husband died for 6 months already.
And she's especially upset because it hasn't been finished because within his lifetime, and he passed away just
6 months now.
Last year.
All right. Thank you then. That will be it for the delegation. Thank you. So does staff have anything more to add before we go to a motion? A resolution of some sort?
Nothing further to add.
All right.
Likewise, nothing further.
Okay, so I'll ask for a resolution.
Move recommendation.
So that's moved. Councillor Liu, Councillor Howe, second. Moved and seconded. That would be the recommendation to remove the park designation, et cetera, and to replace it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's moved and seconded. Councillor Liu, I think you made the motion. Did you want to speak to that? And then I'll go, we've got Councillor Day, Councillor McNulty.
I think we've held up this piece of land for a long period of time. We're not actively planning to do anything about it, so we're just sitting on it for the time being. For the time being, if we change the designation, these people can move forward with it. And it seems to me we looked at this once before. I thought we were going to change this. There was actually a proposal for a whole residential site. Well, now that we're re-looking at it, our requirements for affordable housing have gone up significantly. What we're asking for from other people are significant. I think it creates some opportunity for these people to improve that whole corner, improve the safety of the corner, improve the services available in the corner. I think it allows it to move forward. I think in the future, if the city decides that they're actually going to buy that land and add it to the park space, then they can redesignate it then. If you're just going to put it in a hold for 25 years, why don't you let them do something with it for the next 25 years and then re-put it back in the park and then actively buy it when it's ready for a new redevelopment? I think, you've just put these people in limbo for, what is it? It's almost 20 years now. We've seen projects come forward. We've seen things happen. We've seen everybody scream about that they want affordable housing, but we're not willing to build any by creating a development here or bring in the services that people want.
All right. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. It's pretty clear to me that these owners are unclear about what the options are for their property. And I think it would make good sense to deny this claim today, or to deny this motion today, so that staff can go out and work with them and explain to them that they can have a daycare, that they can use it for businesses that are service orientated, especially I think it's a grocery or convenience store. If we approve this, we are opening Pandora's box. This is property that was designated as park designation. And let's face it, that devalues the property so that, if we want to buy it, we'll buy it at a fair price. Now, if we give up this eighth in the hole, when it does come down to a rezoning application down the road, and I think that will happen, we'll have a townhouse or apartment complex come through at some point, and then we can negotiate more community amenities through the releasing the park designation. I believe that it would be nice if the developers could pay for the intersection upgrades instead of the taxpayers. And if we, put it out there that this area is open for redevelopment and with public amenities. I'm also really concerned that we were given two options there are far more options out there, and I sent it out to everybody on council earlier, basically saying, why couldn't we simply make a designation where there will be a corridor to the park if we went ahead with this. So we cannot, in good conscience, approve this today because there are too many unanswered questions, and I feel that we need to help these people understand all of the options that are available to them. And this is not the right place for a big house. This is going to be a redevelopment opportunity, and it'll be more profitable for these owners if they work with the other fellow owners through potentially a real estate agent and find a way to redevelop that to its best and possible use. Thank you.
Councillor McNulty.
Well, I'm not going to support this. I just, one, for the whole policy, the fact that it's been dumped on us at this stage, and I have to say as a councillor, I resent getting it in this format. It looks like staff have their mind made up and everything on the report goes to things, and we've forgotten about the plans and where we came from. And staff are hiding behind policies as opposed to what people thought they were doing when we tried to put various fields in King George Park. We tried to put the water park in there. Dave Simple redid the softball pitch 4 times to get it done when we had it, and how we took pride in it. And we were always going to buy those properties. That was part of the plan, and that has not gone away, in my opinion, although staff have thrown it away. There are some development. This is already placed for development. We're going to rezone from neighborhood residential to townhouse. That's a huge jump. Every developer in Richmond would love that one, even though it's on parkland, a potential park area. The density is all there. The services are all there, all well laid out. I'm amazed. And to say we don't need any, we are going to get as a city another pathway to the park. Wow. The people who own the land are going to have, instead of 7 million, which we should be buying it for, we should be buying them all out. It's going to be 12, 14 million as soon as we rezone it. And if you don't think so, don't kid yourself. I'd like to know what's going to happen when people are going to develop. Are we going to butcher the few trees that are left in the park at the corner? There's a lot of opportunity there if one goes to visit it to see what's going on. And to say Richmond East doesn't need any more parkland, even if it's another acre and a half, well, interesting where it's coming from. It's the attitude that really bothers me on this, Your Worship, on this, and it's precedent setting. I think people can make requests and they can ask for variances and they can ask for something for those people that own it, but still designated park. 10 years from now, 15 years from now, as we put the plan in to buy it way back when, I was on council at the time, that's still there. That acre and 3/4 or whatever it is, acre and a half, may be something that we want to do and add to the park. I think it's been mentioned the need for the park to expand. There's always room for expansion. So with that, I'm not going to support it at this time. I think the other things that are on the table, the trouble is they're all on there, the rezoning, the promises, and all those are already there. They should be brought forward one at a time, not a wide sweeping 3-pager that's coming out at this time. And if this doesn't go through, I'm going to ask staff to come back with offers. And it's not up to staff to decide what we buy in Richmond. It's up to this council to allocate money. Unfortunately, we're absconding our responsibility. Staff can make recommendations, and it seems we're seeing that too often on it. So it'll be a discussion of parks tomorrow on some things there. So I won't be supporting it, Your Worship, but I am open to listen to the other items once we find out the status of the land. Yeah.
All right, Councillor Rao.
Yes, Your Worship. First of all, I'd like to point out that we are not talking about a developer or a development project. We are talking about a family, a common people family who are being trapped in a situation. As they told us very clearly, their original plan is to have a place to live, and also downstairs they can run a business to support themselves. And for whatever reason, they have been trying for 10 years. Now, without changing the destination, they're stuck with the kind of business that they can do. And I think we have to understand that where they're coming from. If we force them to say you can only do a convenience store, I think we all know that it's not in demand in the area. We have a much bigger place across the road, and also in the more nearby, there's so many other choices. So they're stuck with the convenience store usage of the commercial building. If we can find a way that we can help them, for example, if they can run a daycare, I think that could have resolved their problem. However, right now the situation is we also have our policy being written in such a way that unless we change the OCP destination, otherwise we cannot change the use. So I think this is a very unfortunate situation, but I'm sympathetic to the family. And it's unfortunate that we have to take a big change in the OCP destination in order to help the family. But I think it's a fair wish on their part that they can make a real use of the commercial building or the commercial part of the building so that they can make a living for themselves. And staff, not in this report, but in previous reports, have also told us that we do not need this space as a park space. And if we hold on to the condition that nothing can be changed for this particular building, I think what will happen is that further down the road, there will be further rundown of this area. And nobody will buy this land for redevelopment, knowing that this is going to be park-based. So it means that this place is waiting to be run down. Now, I think it's easy to say, oh, why don't you sell this place and go somewhere else? But we are talking about a family which is not wealthy. If they sell this place and go elsewhere, probably they cannot even afford to have the present living conditions. So easy to say that, but I think we have to be practical. I mean, they do not have much choice. So with the limited resources they have, I think that would be the best plan for them, that they can change the commercial part of the building for something practical so that they can really make some income and to support their living upstairs. As I said, it's unfortunate that we have to go such a long route and also such a complicated route to allow that to happen. But if that's the only choice we have, I would support that. So I would support the motion.
Councillor Steves.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will not be supporting it. I'm not surprised that a realtor didn't tell them that there's a park designation on it, but that's not our responsibility. I think that there's lots of uses that could be made of the building. My recollection is that some years ago there was a butcher shop there. They were competing with us on grass-fed beef, and I looked into the time they were selling grass-fed beef from New Zealand. But anyway, so there's many things that building could be used for, and I don't think there's any real reason to change that. And it may be that we could, as someone suggested, help them find the uses such as daycare or things that would be in keeping with the existing and former uses of the building. In terms of the whole issue, it boggles my mind that we're giving up on the amount of acreage of parks for the 1,000 people. As Councillor Hobbs mentioned, the nature park does not qualify as part of that consideration. Neither does the Garden City lands. Those are open space sites. They're not playing fields. They're natural areas that they may have an acre of trails going through the nature park, but it is not part of any region in Richmond in terms of the need for parkland. When we brought in the parkland bylaw, we were looking at playing fields and trails through open grassy parks that you have around every park and school site in Richmond, not natural areas. So under our own guidelines, it isn't enough. We have always had priorities, and our priority for one was McRoberts that I mentioned and some of the others, and this is lower on the priority list. It doesn't mean that we intended to take it off the priority list. And what should be happening is that if the property comes for sale, which is what we did with all the others, we raise it on the priority list. That's what we've done for the last 20 years. And if the property came for sale and we weren't interested in buying it at that time, then somebody else bought it, but knowing that someday that we might want to buy the property, not redevelop where we'd have to pay 10 times as much for it, but at the existing value of the property when it was purchased 5, 10, or 15 years ago with added money for modern prices. So I think it's really wrong to be dealing with our parks in this manner. If we do this one, then if there's others, why not them too? I guess we could make a lot of money selling some of the lots we bought and fronting of parks in the rest of Richmond as well. And I hope that will never happen. So I just simply can't support this. I think that there are other alternatives, and the other lots that are involved in it. If anybody bought them in the last 10 or 20 years, they bought those lots knowing that it was park designated as well. So it's not just we're not just dealing with one household; we're dealing with half a dozen. And I haven't heard exactly when they were purchased. I'd like to know from staff when the sales of those other properties were made, when people bought them. Was it before we did the designation many years ago, or have they bought the property since the designation as well? Because when we remove the designation on all of those properties, effectively, we are increasing the value of those properties, and because we've been holding them all those years. And if we increase the value of those properties, then the city should be getting the return of that value, not the individuals selling the properties. That's been our policy in a lot of issues, that we would get the gain in value when we make changes like this, and it doesn't look like we're getting anything. But I wouldn't want to sell them even if we did get the gain in value, because our population is going to be going at tremendous rates in the future as our climate is changing. You're going to see what it's like this week. People are going to be moving north. We're going to have tremendous pressures to keep the population down. And we'll have to have more than the acreage that we have now for future populations and future generations. So I think it's a big mistake to be letting land go because these aren't at the top of the priority list. We should put them there.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship, to the rest of Council. I'm definitely in agreement with many of you, and quite opposed to some of the others, it sounds like. So I'll just first share, like Councillor McNulty, the process of this definitely doesn't feel right. And one of the quotes from the delegate who spoke, Amy Ho, she said that we have an outdated OCP, and I couldn't agree more with that statement of hers. Although I do not support the amendment of the OCP, I support the update that's needed citywide, not these little piecemeal erosion of community asset potential. Other ones, for a couple of years, I was the council liaison for the East Richmond Community Association, and I know they had lots to say about the local area, and again, the process being so short, I wasn't able to speak with other people in the area once I knew this loop became open. So I'm sure they would have provided more updates to council, and I believe Councillor Day is the current liaison for that, yes. The other point I wanted to make was there's another municipality, I won't mention it, and two of their busiest streets in the whole city they bought out a commercial area and turned it into an open park. And this is, I think, a vision and an option that we could look at down the road for this corner as well. And then I guess my final point is related to park space allowance. Like to consider the Richmond Nature Park, which is more of a natural area when it comes to the definition of the word park than natural nature park, albeit, but it is sure hundreds of acres, but it's really just a handful of kilometers of trail. And like I said, I walked all of their trails with my under 2-year-old daughter, and it took us about 3 hours, and you don't see anyone, and it's side by side. There's not a lot of space. There's no open running. Again, no dog, no fields to play catch or kick a ball or anything. It's not that kind of a park. So to have our attachment 3, page 13, green space distribution in East Richmond, I really don't think that's the measure that suffices for this situation. And also, you can walk in between the trails, but there's a lot of blackberry and a lot of tripping hazards you're not going to see. So I think at that point, I'll leave it at that. I'm not sure if staff want to comment. I saw some pictures pop up, but
yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor Brody. If there is an opportunity for staff to comment, particularly around the inclusion of the nature park in the calculation around park quantity, and of course there are many different measures that also include distribution of park space across the community, access as another one, and of course the qualities and amenities of the park space. So it is a parks and open space calculation, and there are many. It's also the environmental benefits of the parks and open space and what they contribute to the amount, the quality or quantity per resident of park and open space available. So sorry for being convoluted, but what I am trying to describe is that there are many aspects that would mean we would include the nature park in the calculation, although I understand the comment was just made, perhaps not in this situation, but overall, our standard is based on all parks and open space, whether it's accessible or not. It's a general number. And then we look at all those other criteria like distribution, amenities, et cetera.
All right, Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't be supporting the motion on the floor. I think that as our population increases, open spaces are going to be more important than ever in the future. And what we're seeing is people are more mobile. I mean, my kids are young adults. They have a baby. They travel all over Richmond. They don't just go to their neighborhood park. They take their car and they go to King George Park or they go to Terra Nova. So I think we're seeing that people are more mobile, want to get about their city, and also go to other parts of the Lower Mainland. So I think it's really important that we have a good park space, and I think we do. And I think it's time, I was really on the fence about this, but, I think we have to move on. We have to make a decision. Parks Department has said twice now that it's not needed. So if we oppose this, I think we need to have a park visioning session for this area, have some kind of a long-term plan that we can work toward, that we know then if in 5 to 7 years we're going to buy the property or whatever. Thank you.
From my point of view, I think it's unfair for us to designate something park and then in our plans acknowledge that it's never going to happen. So, I think that we've got to treat this family fairly, and the other families who have their properties there as well. It just isn't fair to designate something park and say you're not going to use it as a park. So, but I have been counting here. My suggestion is we refer this back to staff for them to look at the various Canby lots, in terms of the potential current uses of that property. Secondly, potential uses of the properties. And thirdly, the possibility of acquisition, of a priority acquisition of those properties. So I would move that referral. And it's seconded here. I just think that, I've heard everything on both sides, okay? I understand both sides. The
Point of
bottom,
order, we already had a motion on the table, Mayor Brody.
I'm sorry?
We already had a motion on the table.
Councillor Day, if you want to look at the rules of procedure, a referral motion preempts or takes priority over the regular motion on the floor. So if you wouldn't interrupt me, please. I think that we've got to take a look at this and be realistic about it. I can understand the idea, okay, well, they bought it with a park designation on the property. We assume that's the case. We don't know what their status of their knowledge was, but it does seem like there could be a lot of discussion here with the various property owners, and certainly 4080, to talk about the uses of that property. It does sound like there, even if we have to get variances, there could be more flexibility in the use of that property that may satisfy Mrs. Ho in her situation. So on the referral motion that's on the floor, Councillor Au.
Yes, Your Worship, I just wanted to see if we can add one more thing onto the referral. I would like to see if staff can help Ms. Ho to find a way to make better use of the commercial part of the building. Because we know that this is exactly where she got stuck. So
well, no, Councillor Au, the first thing we're going to look at is the uses of the building, and that's exactly, that would include that.
Okay, that's good.
Councillor McNulty, on the referral.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'll support referral on it. I think we need to look at the position of the city and its long range and what it does, and not compromise ourselves. But council has the authority to make special dispensations with regard to what have you, and by looking at uses. It's not all locked in, like everybody thinks. The OCP is a guideline. It's not locked in. We make changes every planning committee, and we've been doing that for years, and ever since the council has started. So I think this makes imminent sense. I believe there are 2 or 3 of the lots of the 5 that are extremely important to the city and can be used, and we should at least start prioritizing those. And if somebody wants to live there till the end of time, and the city eventually in 2035 buys the lot, that's fine too. So I think what you've suggested, Your Worship, is the right way to go, because I'm on both sides of the fence on this one. And but I think we have to do what's important for the integrity of the city as well. Also on that is what potentially the city would like out of that other than the property.
Yeah, that would go into...
We could expand the parking lot. We could do this. We could do that. There's lots of things we could do. We could put another playground in there for children. And if somebody is thinking of a daycare, maybe it's something we can work together, if indeed that was a use that came out.
That's included in the referral to talk about uses, potential uses, and, you know, under various
And I agree with you. Thank you.
Okay, so on the referral, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Anybody opposed to the referral? It's carried with Councillor Day opposed to the referral. So may I have a motion to adjourn? Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. And I'm now going to call the closed meeting to order. May I have a motion on closure, compliance, and the agenda?